Hi, everyone. Welcome. This is Rudy Hunter. I am thrilled and delighted that you're here. We are going to spend, hopefully, we're going to get it done in 30 minutes. We're going to spend half an hour together, maybe a tiny bit more. I'm going to teach you a glut of useful only information about trauma, grief, and loss. We're going to focus on the trauma portion. I'll tell you a tiny bit about myself, and then we're going to dive into our first round. I'm in practice over 40 years now, and I have a practice that is half people, half animals. So I work on these deep, difficult issues with both people and animals. And we work in ways beyond where the mind can go, which is why it's effective on animals and people. So you don't have to have an exotic, gnarly, nasty, terrible trauma to massively benefit from this work. I have a lot of those folks in my practice, and I also have a lot of folks in my practice who come to me apologetic that what they have not really considered trauma has been holding them hostage for 30 and 40 years. Something like the loss of a home, witnessing a car accident, being hit in the head, losing a pet, losing family jewelry. Trauma, grief, and loss are sticky, gnarly things. And unless we have something that we think will make the headlines or make a good cocktail party story, we tend not to even think of our own traumas as traumas. The good news is that the work we're doing here, plus what you'll learn some of the mechanics of working with your own consciousness and with color and light to help unlock some of this stuff for you. I hope you'll use it often and get yourself closer to freedom. That's part of the main thrust of why I do this work. So let's start with just a couple of bits and pieces, and then we're going to dive in. By the way, before there was anything, there was energy work, and there was prayer. Before there was medicine, before there was devices, before there was prescriptions, before there was mechanical contraptions, before biofeedback ever existed, or trauma desensitization, that's $1,000 word for you, there was energy and prayer. The great news is there's still energy and prayer, and God bless science. Science is now catching up, and there are thousands of very conclusive studies around the world in all cultures about how effective receiving energy, even from strangers, and prayer, even if you don't know who it is, can massively increase your self-healing capability and capacity. So the thing to know about trauma, grief, and loss is they are shock-inducing, and they're overload paralyzers. We freeze, we freak out, we shut down, and we meaning our own nervous system, tries to put the input from one trauma, multiple traumas, in a place to be dealt with later. And we seldom ever get to later because life comes at us very, very quickly. So one of the things that is common is if you find yourself in shock most of the time and in overload most of the time, chances are it's not just the 3,000 emails you haven't yet answered. I laugh because there have been weeks. The chances are it ain't that. We want to look deeper at how our actual nervous system is working or failing to keep up and correct that to the best of our capabilities. You're going to learn some of those bits and pieces here in a couple of minutes. One thing to know, it's not just visual input, but visual input by and far is the big beast. If you see horrors of whatever nature, that teaches the brain in a millisecond, in an instant, to be in a no safety zone. And what happens in a no safety zone with your nervous system and your brain, I will tell you that not much in life gets done. And every coping mechanism, from cigarettes to hardcore drugs to promiscuity to procrastination to showing up late for work to kicking your dog to calling people's names, explosive anger, nightmares, sleep disorders, you name it, all of that rises because we are having the perception of being in a no safety zone. So the takeaway from that is you need some skills. I'm going to teach you some today. And I'm also going to do with you things where you don't have to learn anything. You can just follow along. Yay. But the feeling of safety is required for healing. The word feeling is even more important. If you're not feeling it, you're not in safety yet. The feeling to relax into is when safety begins, and that is a required element for dealing with trauma and grief and loss of every kind. Big, medium, little. One little diversion. There's much maligning of folks on social media, and don't get me wrong, I'm no longer a fan of social media after long personal experience. But there's a lot of maligning of folks who are sending thoughts and prayers to folks who are suffering or for whom things are going terribly in their neighborhood, where there's hurricanes and fires and devastations and mudslides and you name it. I would like you to think about this maligning, if you've ever done it, of dismissing the idea of thoughts and prayers. Remember, I told you at the beginning that that's really all we had at the beginning. And that is now scientifically proven and tested around the world that if, even to strangers, we send good thoughts, we send good woo-woo, we send actual prayers. Doesn't matter what the tradition is, doesn't matter if they're short prayers, long prayers, doesn't matter how histrionic they are. If someone receives that, they are more empowered in their own system to deal with the hurricane, the mudslide, the neighborhood trouble, the disease, the malady, whatever. So it's just something to think about. The first process we're going to do is a critical one that will probably not make a lot of sense to you. It's it's an escape hatch for the beginning of getting to safety. So I'm going to ask you to do this with me. You don't have to understand it. You don't have to believe it. You don't even have to believe the words that I'm going to say on our behalf. I'm going to say what's here. I'm going to say, this hurts so much I want to die, and this hurts so much I want to live, or this hurts enough that I want to live. I'm going to say those back and forth just for about a minute or so. I want you to pick something that you want to work on together now that you consider a trauma, a piece of grief, a loss you've suffered, an injury, accident, something that you're going to work on that you'd like the threat level to come down so you can start to go into safety, so you can start to heal it. Pick one thing. If you got 28, you still got to pick one. All right? The one that you pick, you won't pick the wrong one, will be emblematic and help all of the things you have lined up that you're going to work on down the road, but you have to pick one to stay focused. So keep that in mind, and you don't have to do anything with it. I'd suggest you don't, but listen to these words as I repeat them. Before we start, notice how high the threat level feels to you. 0 to 10, does it feel like a 10? If it feels like a 2 or 3, you're not really picking a juicy enough traumatic experience. Pick something 5 and up so that you can feel it when it starts to let go of some of the pressure. All right? Keep it in mind and just listen to the words. This hurts so much, I want to die. This hurts so much, I want to live. This hurts so much, I want to die. This hurts so much, I want to live. We'll do it a few more times. This hurts so much, I want to die. This hurts so much, I want to live. I'm going to shorten it for ease now. Keep your attention on the same thing. I want to die. I want to live. I want to die. I want to live. I want to die. I want to live. Let go of anything you were focused on. Pay attention now. having listened to those words, to what you were just focused on. If we started at an 8, for example, how much lower is it? Did it go down to a 7 or a 4 or a 2, or did it resolve? It doesn't matter how much it went down, but it does go down. If you're one of the 10 or 15% of folks who need a little spike in adrenaline before things resolved, and your number went up a skitch, that's a tiny bit, give it 2 to 20 minutes, and you'll find that it's come down. And none of this happens because I say so. I mean, I could tell you all sorts of nonsense, and it wouldn't change a thing about what's going on in your own nervous system and in your brain's recall of that event. So I would urge you not to believe what I'm telling you, but to trust it, to test it out in your own experience, and not to trust me about it. And while we're on the subject, I would recommend you don't trust anybody about your subjective experience who tells you all kinds of twaddle about it. I would suggest that you lean in, give their work a good go, and then see what actually happens for you, because that's what matters, nothing else. We're going to do another process very quickly. I will tell you that healing overload is in the details. What that means is we all have a big pile of overload. You might only have 2 traumas, if you're lucky, 2 terribly bad experiences, but most people have way more than that. And if each one of those locks the nervous system up for some amount of time until it's resolved, which is what happens, we have a whole big basket of locked up of overload, and we can't, as a clump, as a one-shot deal, go after everything all at once. Everything all at once is a mistake. It's just like eating an elephant. You do one bite at a time until the first elephant's gone. And am I recommending eating an elephant? No, I'm an animal lover. Why would I say that? It's just a fun expression. So stay with what you've picked for the duration every time you come back and review this, because that will give you the most bang for your buck, and it will also force you to do what your mind doesn't want you to do, which is to focus on everything. If we focus on everything, we go nowhere, and we get there really, really fast, and we go, this is nonsense, this doesn't work, I'll never get better. I want you to get better. The better part of you wants you to get better. Your higher, better self, your adult mind wants you to get better. But it also doesn't have the tools and doesn't know how to do it, so it freaks out and tries to go after everything. So we've established a tiny bit of safety. We're going to go and find your first detail in the thing you're working on.